Coming to you, not live, from a suburb that is probably pretty far, this is the Movie Nerd Podcast, the show where myself, Dominic Rizzi, aka Movie Nerd, as well as my co-host, Chris Evanko, will continue to talk about movies, TV, and just life in general. And now, without further ado, here are the hosts, myself, Dominic Rizzi, aka Movie Nerd, and Christian Evanko. This is the Movie Nerd Podcast. Chris, how are you, man?
Doing well. Same as always, man.
Yeah, we're back at school. After a very nice, long, relaxing break. It's our last semester here at community college before we transfer out, and we're just back talking movies and doing what we always do.
Doing what we know how to do.
Exactly, exactly. So, Chris, we're here to talk because I told you, our last episode, I told you about a movie to watch that I very much enjoyed, but that not a lot of people saw because it didn't get a wide release. The Weinstein Company, I don't know what they were thinking when they released this movie, but they didn't do it a wide release. They didn't do an Oscar push for this at all. But I'm just glad because you finally saw this movie after I've been telling like everybody that I know to see this movie. But you finally saw it. I figured you would appreciate the most. Chris, what movie did you finally see?
I finally saw Sing Street.
Yeah, and what did you think of it? First off,
so I guess my quick thoughts. Overall, was pretty blown away by it. It was a super feel-good movie.
Yes.
The cast is awesome. You never heard of, well, you've heard of
two
a few
of them.
people in it.
Two of them.
But you haven't really heard of many of these young actors, but they were all pretty amazing. The writing was great, and I'm a big music guy, so that already won me over.
Yeah. I love this movie. When I unfortunately had to bump this movie down to number 7 on my top 10 of the year, but I absolutely freaking love this movie. I said it in our last episode. It was such a feel-good movie. It was a great coming-of-age story. It was a great musical. I love the entire cast, despite the fact that I knew none of these guys. Well, that's not true. I knew 2 of them. So I know Jack Rayner, who's the older brother, because he was in Transformers: Age of Extinction.
Oh, he was really good.
Yeah, he was way better in this than he was in Age of Extinction. And I know Aidan Gillen, who's better known as Littlefinger from Game of Thrones, as the dad. But everybody else is completely unknown. I love this movie. This movie's great. The music is absolutely insane. Chris, I want to hear more about you, though, because I've talked about this movie enough. I really want to hear what it is you have to say about it.
All right, so we're just going to dive right into the spoilers.
Yeah, just dive in.
Not that I'm going to hit you with a spoiler off the bat, but so in the first 10 minutes, I kind of realized, I'm going to like this movie.
Yeah.
I love the opening scene, how the kid's playing guitar and he's doing the very sarcastic sort of call and response to what he's hearing about his parents arguing in the background. I thought that was a really great way, like the classic show don't tell, a really great way to show his situation, that he's a musician, he wants to play music, and he's going through a hard time at home.
Establishing his character within the first 5 minutes without actually having to have somebody there just explain, this is this person exposition. And this is what they do. No explanation. There was exposition, but
you're right.
No explanation.
Yep.
That's the word that we're looking for.
But I'm not as much of a movie buff as Dom, so. But I will say that the movie the shots were beautiful. Compositionally, I really didn't have many problems with it. In fact, I thought a lot of the settings and locations really showed how beautiful of a place Wales can be, and that was really cinematically it was a really great movie. But I loved the characters were what drove this movie home for me.
Yeah,
it's just so
drive puns.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get to that
you stole it,
bit.
But that song is infectious. The songs that I think it was Gary Clark wrote for this movie were awesome.
Yeah.
And apparently he wrote them with the 2 writers/producers.
So really?
They were all, I looked up a Wikipedia article on this beforehand, and they were all a big part of it, which was cool. The actor, I guess, didn't really ever sing before.
The main guy?
Yeah.
The main guy's a singer.
Yeah, but he sounded really good, considering he didn't have much formal singing.
Yeah, his name is Ferdia Walsh Pilo is his name.
Yeah, and he just kind of did it for the movie, I guess.
Yeah,
and his voice is awesome.
Yeah.
The songs sound great. Listen to the soundtrack, and I think that this movie was heartwarming. It was funny at times. It was sad at times, and it was just a great coming of age story, like you've said.
It was basically echoing everything you said. So This movie's set in Ireland, and it feels very Irish. I've been to Ireland, and that the country's got a very old style feeling to it that I really felt resonate from the movie. But that aside, the movie's set in 1985, right?
Yeah,
so that's
I picked up on that.
32 years ago now, but it still feels so fresh and modern.
I loved how the older
that's
brother...
weird how some movies are able to do that. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. You're totally right. I loved how the older brother was sort of the torchbearer to the dad, who was like, this doesn't sound like the Beatles. And the older brother's like, yeah, because it's not.
Yeah, because it's not the
This
Beatles.
is music.
This is...
And it was like they were just discovering MTV and like pop and synth and keyboards were a big thing. I just love how funny that was.
I love the references to the 80s, but at the same time, it's funny that you mentioned the dad, because the dad could have been one of those guys who could have been the primary antagonist of the movie, but the fact that he wasn't, and the fact that he wasn't discouraging his son, but at the same time, he wasn't encouraging him. He was just like one of many factors and oppositions that he had to overcome. Like, it was really, really about him, the relationship with his brother, and his relationship with his bandmates, and how he was trying to get this girl, because it's simple the way it kicks off. It's like, literally, I wasn't joking when I said this. He literally comes out of his school after his first day. He's talking to his friend. He sees this girl standing across the street and says, she's beautiful. He walks across the street and literally asks, do you want to be in a video for a band? And she's just like, you're in a band? And he's like, yeah, I'm in a band. And that just continues the theme, is that life is not, rock and roll and life is about taking risks. And if you don't take certain risks, you're not going to get a whole lot out of it.
Right, and see, that's the thing about this movie. There's so many concepts and cliches that you've seen before, but this movie does such a good job at exploring those in a different direction than you've seen it in the past, where it just felt refreshing, even though it's still a coming-of-age story, which we've gotten so many times in so many different forms and styles. Yeah. So that was really refreshing, because he was like pretty ballsy. Usually in like a lot of other movies, the character would kind of stray away. He went right up to the girl, made up the fake story, got her number, put the band together after the fact.
Yeah,
and I was like,
they
this
just
kid's
like
awesome.
swooped in and got the band together. Like him and this little redhead kid who's like half my size, who's like a complete boss. He pulls out this other kid who is actually Mark Renton, I think is his name. Correct me, I don't know if I'm right about that. Don't quote me on that. But they get this other kid the glasses kid who like can play every instrument known to man, and like they just like get 3 other kids together. It's like a black kid who can play keys, a bass player, and a drum player. And they just start jamming, and like their first song, they try to do a cover of a Duran Duran song, and it sounds terrible. Yeah, and the brother, like,
I love the older brother, man.
Yeah, the brother's Jack
like
Reynor
the Mr. Miyagi of this movie,
pretty
right?
much. But at the same, it's not like the traditional teacher role. It's the non-S teacher in the sense of he wants them to succeed, but he's not. He's the. What's the word I'm looking? He's the unconventional mentor, because the classic storytelling method is that the hero is reluctant, and he's got the mentor, and the brother is the mentor in this situation, and it really works because Jack Reynor kills it in every scene that he's in.
Yeah, he was great. The accents, if anyone's worried about watching, I guess, a foreign film, right? This is a foreign film.
Yeah.
The accents weren't really that thick.
Yeah, they don't bug me that much.
Because I know I have some friends of mine who would just be like, oh, I'm not watching that. It's a foreign film. Just because of the fact that they think they're going to miss out on something. But you really don't. You really can't hear. This movie is mostly about the music.
Yeah, I ultimately got more out of this movie than I did a lot of other movies that came out this year, because I'm mostly a blockbuster guy, but because so many of the blockbusters that came out this year were terrible, I just looked for the smaller movies. And this one, like, really, really resonated with me, like more so than I ever thought. Mostly because the thing about this kid is that I've been in his shoes before. Like everyone who's gone through school or just has been a teenager knows what that struggle is like, which is what makes this so great. It's what lasts up there with The Breakfast Clubs and all the other great coming-of-age movies.
Right. Granted, though, the school that he was in was a bit extreme.
The school he was in was a bit
not
extreme.
Going to punch a student in the face.
Well, we don't know that. It was a different time, so who knows who those priests were. They literally talked about the priests raping kids in the beginning of the movie.
True.
So.
I guess it was more aggressive, but I mean, that felt a little Hollywood-esque, the way that the school was. The fight when he first walked in and everyone around them cheering and no teachers doing anything. But it ultimately
built towards the purpose of the movie you needed it in order to understand where his character was going. But let's talk about the music, because
real quick though, because you said something about like being in his shoes, and like for me, this movie was just giving me like flashbacks of when I was like 15 in high school, like trying to form a band.
Yeah, and for you that was much longer ago than me. Like for me it was pretty recently, because I only been out of high school for 2 years now. But
yeah, and like so for me, like because I've still played music, but I'm a solo artist now because
Yeah.
being in a band never really worked out. And it was just like, oh man, I remember when I first linked up with so and so, and we made our first sounds, and that was so magical. And like, I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, they did a great, like, that is kind of how it goes. Like, you just meet up with people. It's awkward at first. You write a few songs. Some people tell you it sucks. You play some shows, and life goes on. And it was really cool.
Yeah, but it was really cool how the biggest thing about music in movies, especially musicals, the term musical is a really weird term to use
Would
because
you consider this a musical?
it depends. I'm getting to that. So I went on for a while about how I didn't like La La Land. And the reason for that is because it felt, at least for me personally, is because it felt very much like a musical. This didn't feel like a musical. And the way that I specify that is because to me, a musical is something that requires musical song and dance numbers to help tell your story. With this, the music didn't necessarily feel, the music didn't feel necessary in order to tell the story. Like, you could have told the story without the music and just, like, had some cool tunes in the background. But they were able to incorporate these original songs into the story and make them feel fresh and actually enhance the film. You know what I'm saying? That's what makes this movie for me. Versus, say, like a La La Land, which is where they break into these vast song and dance numbers, and every single time they do, it's jarring as hell, and it takes me out of the movie.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen that movie, but I have seen musicals before. And so I can definitely see where you're going with that.
Right,
For
movie
example,
musicals, though. I have no problem with musicals on Broadway, but movie musicals, that bugs the hell out of me because it just takes away from the story.
like in West Side Story in the movie, when a musical number starts up,
Exactly.
It just
takes you out and it takes away from any stage. And for me, and this even
not
goes...
that I don't love West Side Story.
Exactly,
for anyone
exactly.
listening, that's a great movie.
But for me, it even goes the same with a little bit for Moana because, like, I love Moana, but because, you know, that brings it back like classical Disney tale of my childhood. But, like, just to relate it to the situation, the thing about Moana is that I didn't realize how much of a classic Disney animated movie with all the musical song and dance numbers it was going to be. And remember, for the past couple of years now, I've been really only dealing with Pixar and Disney animated movies that don't have, like, any music in it, like Zootopia or Wreck-It Ralph or Big Hero 6.
Well, Zootopia has the one.
It has the one song, but it's not like sung by anybody. It's not a song and dance number.
Right,
you know what I'm
plays
saying?
at the credits.
Yeah, Moana, on the other hand, it had like it was very classic Disney in terms of it had like a lot of different song and dance numbers, and I got used to it as the time went on, but like I wasn't expecting it, so it was a little bit jarring at first.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? And it was
so
the same...
you're saying that in this movie, it all just came together
yes,
nicely.
it
wasn't
came together
jarring.
perfectly.
Now let me, my thought on the music was it sort of felt like every time they started a new song, that was kind of the movement into the next act.
Right.
Like the lyrical content and what each song, because each song he writes about this one girl.
Yes.
So it kind of felt like after each interaction, he would get inspired and then write another song. And for me, I was like, okay, cool. Now we're getting to the next segment. So I kind of started to lock in on that, and I felt like that was a cool motif. I wasn't like upset to the fact where it's like, okay, now we're going to the next part. It was every time I was like excited to see.
It flowed very naturally. Like the songs built up very, very well. Like honestly, like he starts off with Riddle of the Model, which is like a perfect, like a little bit of an awkward intro, but it's really cool and funky and it works. It's just like showing just like how exquisite this girl is on the inside, but so few on the outside, but so few people get to know her on the inside.
Right.
And then when he transitions to Up, it's basically like how she makes him feel, and Up is one of the honestly, like when I'm thinking about my favorite song from this movie, it's always between Up and Drive It Like You Stole It, because those
Drive It Like You
Stole It should have got nominated for an Oscar, and I'm still pissed that it didn't get nominated. But
did this movie receive any credit from the Oscars?
Nothing at all.
Just the
literally
Golden Globes.
nothing. Just the Golden Globes.
And how did it do there?
It didn't get anything.
It was nominated.
It was nominated.
It was probably just the
it was
rollout
nominated,
plan.
which is
It
good.
didn't
Yeah, it was
really
the
get
rollout plan.
much-
The Weinstein Company put no effort into marketing this movie for the
And
Oscars.
you know they have the budget for that.
They absolutely have the budget. They're the Weinsteins. Like,
Well,
come on.
Let me bring it back. Yeah, you're 100% right, and that's unfortunate, but we do recommend you see it. Let me bring it back, though. I wasn't upset where a new song would start, and I would be like, okay, now we're moving into the next part. I liked that because it's sort of every time they went to a new section, I was like, great. They didn't stay in that one arc for too long. They moved right on. The drama increased. The way the band built and they kind of like came into their own was really cool.
Yeah, the songs were the story beats. The songs were the story beats that kept pushing it forward.
I loved that. It almost
so
the whole time
good.
I was thinking, did they write the music first or the concept first? What came first?
Yeah.
Because it's so hard to tell. They so seamlessly go together.
Pretty much, yeah. And it really, really works out well. But
Don, what I would like to hear about from you is, because I felt that this movie, to describe like young kids trying to play rock and roll, standing out their time, I think that the set designers and the costume designers did a really great job to add just like a silent element.
Right.
What do you think about that?
Honestly, I didn't really think too much about that when I was watching the movie. Now, granted, I've seen the movie 4 times now, so
wow.
yeah, I love that. Shows you how much I love this movie. I didn't really think about that going forward, but looking back, yeah, those clothes that they're wearing, it emulates the time, but at the same time, it's never distracting. Like the first time when they're playing Riddle the Model and they dress up in those kind of funny looking costumes, I thought it was funny, but it worked for the tone overall because
awesome,
they were trying to like do their own thing and like be their own music video. And the bully Barry comes by them and is with his dad, and he's making fun of them at first, but it's like it ends up being awesome. And then how that actually ends up transitioning on later on, where he meets up again with Barry at school, and Barry's like making fun of him, and he's just like, you know who you're like, Barry? You're like Oscar Wilde. And he's just like, and he basically just tells him, he's just like, you want to hit me? Go ahead, do it. All you can do is destroy things. You don't have the power to create, and that'll always make you a step behind me. I love that.
That was such a powerful.
Love that.
There was so many moments where I thought to myself, I'm in, because I mean, I hate to compare it to School of Rock, but in my mind, that movie is very much about like a rock and roll band in the musical sense. But that movie people will say that's like in my top 10 favorite movies, and granted, I love that movie. But I feel like I've been looking for a movie about a young rock band that could be my School of Rock, because that movie didn't really bring me in, and I feel like I found it. And everything you just said, that whole scene, that was such a powerful line for like such a young character. And I feel like that's one of those lines that reads well, but you're not sure how it goes, but he delivered it.
Yeah.
You know? And he delivered also, a lot of his lines so perfectly.
And also, I don't know who that actor is that played the bully Barry, but he was great. But also,
great.
The thing that I love at the end is how they do the twist on the typical bully trope, where they end up actually incorporating him, because that's the thing about it. Just plays on the tropes of most bullies. Most bullies just want to be loved. They just don't know how to express it truly, and then they incorporate him. And it's basically saying that, and the redhead kid, which that freaking kid is fantastic.
He
literally
awesome,
says, we all have, it's just like, look, you're a schmuck, but we all have one thing in common. We all suck at school, so you might as well be with us and come be cool with us playing in the band, because we need all the help rather than staying here drunk off your ass with your loser mom and dad.
How good was the midterm scene?
Oh,
when they're all in there and they're all looking at
and Driving Like You Stole It is starting to play.
Yeah.
Man, and like, it just shows every one of them, even the bully. Like the bully literally crumbles up the paper and flips off the teacher. It's like none of them know this shit. Because
I like that they included him though, because that just shows how well-rounded this character was written.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he could have an ego at that point. He's getting the girl.
He could have been a one-note character, and instead he's a fully fleshed out 3D character, just like the rest of them.
Thank you, Dom. Now, one other thing that I would like to talk about, and you kind of touched upon it by bringing in the bully and the little manager kid.
Yep.
One of my notes that I actually wrote down for this movie was great supporting cast.
Yes.
I just want to hear you dive in. I feel like you could really enlighten us on that.
Well, first off, props to the main kid, Freddie Walsh Pillow, because I looked it up. That kid's my brother's age. By the way, my younger brother, who's a senior in high school right now, and he's already like, he's playing gigs in Ireland, and he's awesome.
Phenomenal.
And so props to him. But yeah, the supporting cast, unfortunately, besides Jack Rayner, Aidan Gillen, and Lucy Boynton, who plays the girl, I unfortunately don't know the names of the other actors, but that just goes to show like how great they were, because sometimes you can have a movie that you're trying to make a specific message with, but because you have such a big cast, you get distracted by because you get sucked into this face and this face and this face. But with this film, you didn't know anybody. And even the faces that you did know, it wasn't one of those faces just like, I know that guy. It was one of those faces where it's like, I've seen that guy before, but I don't really know him off the top of my head. So it blended in, and it was able to fully work. It was able to work for the story. And every one of those characters, look, the key to a good cast is to have all of your characters blend into your ensemble perfectly and not have anyone try to hog all the attention. And there were certain times where I felt like I wasn't sure if they were shooting for more of an ensemble feel or more of a solo feel. I feel like they for the first half of this film, they were trying to do like a 50-50 act, and then the last film they established like it was more about him. But I thought that they ended up having that ebb and flow really well, because if you notice, the other players, they don't really have as much lines going forward throughout the film. Like after a while, it's really just the main kid, the glasses kid, and the redhead,
and
then everyone else, and then everyone else just blends in. But
they
works.
did have a decent amount of screen time.
They did.
Yeah, no, you know what? That's totally true. I guess I did, but it never felt like it was confused in a bad way. It kind of felt like that's what they intended.
Yeah, exactly.
Introduce the band, but he's the lead singer. It's his story. He's the one who's going through a rough time at home.
Yep.
He's the one who sees the girl that he can't get. She's with the other guy. So yeah, that was cool. And they did a very smooth job at, like, no one's, I feel like, kind of a big cast, no one stepped on anyone's toes.
Right.
That's essentially what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Another point that I really loved the ending.
Yes, I love that ending.
Not to just jump right there, but a lot of things stand out about this movie. But what a powerful ending.
Yeah.
It kept going up.
Yeah, it did.
The concert was awesome. The way that they kind of like brought all the songs that they introduced individually throughout the movie.
And the way it culminated too, like you would think Drive It Like You Stole It could have been their high point, where and then they just peter down afterwards. But they managed to wrap the way they wrap it up with Brown Shoes and the way it's like really sticking it to the guy who caused them the most grief.
The masks.
Oh, it's perfect.
That was awesome.
It was great. And
I
then
loved that.
the way it shows them running off to the home, like to the brother, just like, oh, how'd the gig go? It's just like, oh, we're gonna sail to London and we're gonna be famous. And he's just like, really? Do you know anyone in London? He's just like, I got my record. She's got her photos. And he's just like, when are you guys thinking to go? And it's like, now. And he's just like, all right, let's go. And he's just like, he's fully willing to support it. And they go out, they take out the boat, and they sail straight forward. It's just like, it just plays into the themes of risks, is that so many people talk a big game, but they never actually are willing to do anything. And this just goes to show that when it comes to following your dreams, like, take risks. That's the key. I'm not saying, like, run away from home. I'm not encouraging that. But at the same time, I'm saying no risk, no reward is still a thing.
You know, one thing that annoyed me about that scene was the brother pretty much told his little brother that he would be there. And they're going through such a hard time with divorce and stuff that he would come up to the concert. He said, come up on stage, play a solo with me. He's like, you know what, that sounds like something I might do. And I really just wanted to see him walk through the door and see his little brother play. We didn't get that moment.
I guess, but that didn't bug me as much because he wasn't supposed to be the star. He was supposed to be supporting his brother, but at the same time, it's like he kind of already had his glory days, you know? And so
I feel like he was such an important role and like
he was, but he played it up for the part that he was needed for. And also the thing is that when he was talking about when he was having his little freak out, which is, in my opinion, the best acting I've seen all year, when he was having his freak out where he was telling him just like, I blazed the path through our mad family. It's just like, yeah, you're cool, but once I was cool too.
That was gonna hit him or something.
Yeah, me too. I was freaked out, and like, yeah, and I'm like, yeah, I get that it was just a high withdrawal, but like it works because it just goes to show like this guy, he's a wash up and he knows it, but at the same time he's like he's come to accept it. You know, he's not freaking out because he's not like going just like, oh, you're stealing my. He's not jealous of his brother. No. It's one of those relationships where he wants to encourage his brother because he knows that he needs him, while at the same time he wants him to. It's best situation of parents because you know parents always push the kids to not be like them, but in the process the kids end up exactly like them. You know how that works?
Elaborate, please.
Well, it's basically where, like, say, like, a dad, and this is just, like, random out of nowhere, a dad who works a blue-collar job as, like, a plumber, wants his kid to go to college and, like, get a good education because he doesn't want him to be, like, where he is. He doesn't want him to be, like, a plumber.
Right, but
without actually thinking of, like, what his kid wants. And then the next thing you know, his kid makes great money as an electrician, you know? It's something like that.
Okay,
I've had a similar situation with a brother where it's, like, the brother... The brother had already had his day, and he didn't want him to be like him in the sense of he didn't want him to be a wash up, but at the same time he was encouraging him to follow his dreams in the most. It was the most intriguing way I've ever seen. He was educating him and like showing him just like.
I love the rock history courses.
Oh, that was awesome.
Those
that
were
was
such
like
good
literally just like when I have school in the morning. This is school, and I'm like,
that was awesome.
Yes.
He hands him the Cure. He hands him the Cure record, which is an album that I actually really enjoy.
Yeah.
So once I saw that album artwork, it came so quick I had to run it back.
Yeah.
Oh shit, that's that album.
And also, can we just touch on real quick on the references to the '80s bands, like really captivating the time that they were in without ever feeling distracted? The Cure. Duran Duran, and like every time they would do a new song, they would style it after a different band. While at the same time,
there was even a Motorhead song.
Yeah,
there,
Motorhead,
which is like on the heavier end of the spectrum, because really it was kind of like that whole Carsy, Duran Duran, like new wave pop rock sound. But then they brought in a Motorhead song, which played perfectly in the score. One thing I will say to that accord is the music that these kids made. I know that it was previously written. But if they were a band at that point in time, I gotta think that they would see some level of success.
Yeah.
Because it just fit in so well with the whole futuristic. That was the theme, right?
Yeah.
And that was kind of what Duran Duran was. That was kind of what, who was the other band you just mentioned?
The Cure.
The Cure, right. So I think that the writers did an excellent job of kind of like writing to that niche of that kind of cool, hip, like, mysterious sound. And I think that those songs can be a hit nowadays because you have bands like The Killers, 1975, even Imagine Dragons that are doing that kind of like spacey rock.
Yeah.
But I think the writers really did write some futuristic type songs, like the motif of the. I just think they accomplished what they were saying throughout the whole movie so well with the score.
Yeah, it was It was
I love how in-house this
It
movie
was a
is.
period piece without ever making you realize it was a period piece. Like it's
Yeah,
it encapsulated the
Thank you for
80s,
that.
the best parts of the 80s so well that you didn't even realize that it was a movie that took place there.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
So, Dom, what else do you have to say about this movie?
Oh man, just there's so much that I could go into, but honestly, just with all the crap that we got out of 2016, I'm just so glad that not only were there still a lot of good movies that ended up coming out near the end, specifically in the last month, but just knowing that I can look back and say that there was a movie that I would arguably consider putting in my top 20 favorite films of all time. That's just pretty spectacular on its own. Just like because I've seen a lot of movies that appeal to me in a lot of different ways because I watch movies nonstop because I have no life. But when
you're passionate.
Well, when I see a movie though that like I can relate to because I feel like I could actually be in that movie versus a movie that I can relate to because of, I think it's cool that somebody's like killing somebody in an amazing way or something like that, or how something's shot. Like when I can, it's so few times because I have such a very opinionated view of myself. When I can actually see myself in somebody's shoes, that just hits me on a whole different level, and I'm really glad that this film was able to do that for me because not a lot of films have been doing that for me recently, or really ever for that matter.
Like I said, this movie really was, for me, nostalgic in a way. It just brought back memories.
But it wasn't nostalgic for the sake of being nostalgic. It wasn't like pulling a hood over your head and just like shoving in your face. Like it didn't feel corporate at all where they're just like, oh, remember this from your childhood? It didn't feel that way at all.
What I meant by nostalgic, exactly. What I meant by nostalgic was from my own personal experiences, like starting a band when I was younger. Like it just, or even just like the high school years, the middle school years. Like it just brought you back in like a very like, okay, this is a nice look back on those times, It was cool. Like, it made you, like, think to yourself, at least for me, think to yourself about things while enjoying the movie. Like, reliving it through these characters. That's how well it was written, I have to say.
Right.
And I'm glad you said the whole top 20 thing, because I was thinking maybe it's because I just watched it this morning at the time of this recording. I was like, wow, this might be in my top 10, but I don't know if that's because I just watched it and I wasn't expecting that.
Only reason why I say top 20 is because I've already made my top 10, and I'm sorry, but this film doesn't even come close. It's great, but not even close.
No, but it's up there.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't sure if I was jumping the gun because I really liked it and it just hit me, but it's good to hear someone else say that because I think it is top 10, top 20 material, to be honest with you.
And, like, I'm working on my top 20 right now, and it's hard because, like, my 10 was hard enough as it was, but, like, 10, it's, like, specific films that resonated with me a different way, like Pulp Fiction, Saving Private Ryan, The Dark Knight, The Departed, the first two Godfathers, The Princess Bride, films that resonated with me in a very, very specific way.
Those are all great
and
picks.
This was just one of those movies. It resonated with me in a very, very specific way. And when a movie is able to do that with me, that is what makes it eligible for that spot. So,
amazing.
Yeah.
So, Dom.
So, Chris.
Real quick, man, what you think worked the best about this movie?
The best? Well, it's Drive It Like You Stole It.
Okay.
It's got to be Drive It Like You Stole It because, look, when that scene comes on, which it teased us a little bit with the first couple of verses of that song in the beginning, like when they're singing and when they do the test scene, just teases us how great it is. But then when they start doing it, and they want to do it like an ode to Back to the Future, which came out that year, which I thought was great enough as it is, because Back to the Future is one of the greatest movies ever made.
100%.
And then they do it like an ode to the song and dance number. It's an ode to the 50s big band era styles. And then when they start singing it and the camera pans around and they're all dressed in costume and they're at the ball and he's seeing like everything that he ever wanted in his life. His brother, clean shaven and looking badass. His parents together. His teacher encouraging him. Like, honestly, it almost reminded me of like, wow, my grandpa would have seen this and he would have loved it.
That movie?
Yeah, no, that scene's in specific.
That scene?
I don't know about the movie, but like that scene in particular, it reminded me so much of him because like that's what the environment was like when he was growing up, and it just it floored me. Like the song is great enough as it is, but
the way they cut to that scene,
it's
I almost
beautiful.
didn't know if that went from them rehearsing to them actually playing the show.
Yeah.
That's how smooth the transition was. But then I realized when the brother, it was awesome the way he rode it on that motorcycle.
That was cool. Really nice nod to West Side Story, ironically enough that you would say that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with the red shirt and riding in the bike with the knives and like when they're doing the knife fight, that's totally a West Side Story reference.
I need to go back and watch that.
Yeah, when he's like taking the guy, when the guy's trying to hit on the girl, like, the Phil Collins listening guy, and they pull out the knives and he like knocks the knife at it.
I don't agree with the whole Phil
I
Collins
don't either.
bashing.
I like Phil Collins. I didn't think that was just like, oh, what? No woman can truly love a man who listens to Phil Collins. I call bullshit on that. Phil Collins is awesome.
Love Phil Collins.
Phil Collins is great.
Anyways, if that's one of our only gripes with this movie, that should be a testament as why you should go and see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that ending scene was so
The ending scene or Drive It Like You Stole It?
I'm sorry, Drive It Like You Stole It. Then we'll get into the ending scene, because that was another... I didn't think it was going to get any better than Drive It Like You Stole It. But, yeah, the whole concert was awesome. The sad song, everyone walked out, but you know that was great. I thought that was great for his character.
That one related to me too, because that one reminded me of when my ex dumped me twice. So that one related to me a lot too.
Well, I'm here for you now, Dom.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
But what I will say is that you could tell that he needed that moment. His band was like, I'm not playing a slow song, but him as a character, he needed that. He needed that
reprieve.
Seen the girl out in the crowd at that point in time.
He was trying to make everyone in the crowd understand what he was going through, because that's another thing that like kind of gets overlooked when you listen to bands. You're not just going to listen to music. You're going to listen to what these bands. You're going to listen to experience. You know, you're going to listen to what these guys have poured their heart and souls into. Right. It's these guys telling the story of their life,
especially a small band like that.
Yeah,
most of the time it's passionate songs that come from the heart, not from someone telling them what to write.
Exactly.
Also, I love the little Ziggy Stardust nod.
That was great.
That was so funny.
Love that. Love that.
After he got his head.
Oh, that was awesome.
Kind of almost drowned in the sink, but we won't. We don't need to go into more detail on that. But yeah, the Drive It Like You Stole It song paired with the visuals on that scene is phenomenal. You pretty much get the whole cast as to what I would see in like a Broadway play where they all come out for the big grand finale and then they bow. That's what that felt like, and it was so rewarding. But it really doesn't end there, because it, like you said,
they run home. They get the brother to drive them to the dock, and they sail to London, and it ends with the Adam Levine song, which it works so well for that scene. They almost run into the boat carrying the passengers from Ireland to London, and they wave high, and then they just keep going on the rafts, and...
But it felt like they were about to get hit.
It
or
did.
They were going to get flipped over by a giant wave. Like, I was getting nervous in that scene.
Yeah, me too.
Because the storm hit, and I was like, whoa, are they about to...
It's like, are they seriously about to drown? I'm like, is this movie about to, like, pull a complete 180 on me?
Which would have been crazy.
Would have been crazy, and I don't think I would have enjoyed it nearly as much, but...
They figured it out. They rode on the back tide of the boat, which was honestly smart science on the part of the movie writers. And my only problem with that scene was the Adam Levine song.
Really?
If you have a movie set in the 80s and you've done so well keeping the continuity of the time, what was Adam Levine, 2-3 years old at the point in time when that movie?
I thought it worked. I thought it worked.
Maroon 5 was not around.
It wasn't Maroon 5 though. It was just Adam Levine. I just thought
even worse.
The tone of his voice, the tone of the song. I thought it worked for the scene that it was in. It was the perfect way to wrap it up and establish where they were gonna go, like further down the road.
Musically, it was awesome. Lyrically, just helped to perpetuate the environment of the scene, and the music made you feel a certain way. Like, it was just a nice ending. But it's just, I felt like if you have this really cool soundtrack, everything's set in the 80s, all your artists are from that era, just throwing in the one random modern guy out of nowhere. I don't know. It just kind of felt like they could have found an older song that.
All right.
That was the only thing. I just felt like the continuity was so strong, and then they brought that in, and it's probably just like they just love the song, which is. I like the song too, but that was just something where I was like,
I don't know. I guess when I go into a movie like this, I'm not thinking about continuity first most. This isn't a Marvel or a Star Wars movie, so...
Yeah, well, it's like kind of a period piece.
I guess,
it just slowly, like, kept me in that
But the point being that, like, it wasn't like a song that they were listening... It was non-diegetic, so they weren't listening to it and they weren't playing it.
No, I know. So I can't be too mad at it.
Exactly.
I just would have... That was... If that... is one of my gripes with this movie, and what did I say?
The knife scene with the Phil Collins scene.
This is a great film, but just I want to be critical, just so the people at home don't think that we're just goo goo gaga over this film.
Yeah, exactly. Which we absolutely are. That's kind of the point of this episode.
But great movie. I'm really glad you made me watch it. I'm definitely mad that I took this long to get around to it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm serious. It is on Netflix now. Nobody has an excuse to not watch this movie. Like, before it was understandable because you couldn't find it. But this movie's on Netflix. Go and watch it. I guarantee you, every single person has something that they can get out of this movie. I'm pretty sure even if there are serial killers out there listening to this, they will get something out of this movie. Not too sure, but I'm just throwing this out there because I'm pretty sure even serial killers have been to high school at some point. So it's probably one of the reasons why they became serial killers to begin with.
I guess so. On a closing statement, I would just say go and see Sing Street. We're back. This is the first of a few episodes that will come that we have ideas on. Dom, it's up to you if you want to let people know what they can expect in the coming episodes.
We're gonna be doing a couple.
I'm fine with keeping it
let's just say
mystery, or-
that there were a couple of ads that dropped during the Super Bowl for some very popular upcoming things that we may or may not be doing reactions to. And we're not going to be churning it out as consistently as we originally anticipated, mostly because of our busy schedule. So expect at the very least about one a month. If we do 2 or 3 a month, you guys will see. But yeah, for the most part, Chris, where can they find you?
They can find me on Twitter, Instagram, or anywhere else that matters. My YouTube channel, all under Christian Ivanko.
All right, and you can find me, Dominic Rizzi, on Twitter at Movie Nerd Review. You can also head over to my website, movienerdreviews.com. Unfortunately, my other YouTube channel, Movie Nerd TV, is no more, but you can still find everything you want right here on this channel, Movie Nerd Reviews. Chris, you have anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
Not really. Aside from that, your last few videos have been on point.
Thanks,
so
man.
They should check that out.
Yeah, absolutely should. Lemony Snicket Series of Unfortunate Events. Check out my video, not the actual series, because the series sucked. But I'm Dom. That's Chris. This is the Movie Nerd Podcast, and we will see you guys next time.